In 1917, the first of a series of photographs were taken by two girls in the village of Cottingley in Yorkshire, and for the next 60 years these photographs were the cause of much debate and attracted the attention of the media as well as notable figures such as Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. These photographs came to be known as the Cottingley Fairies. The fairies, of course, turned out not to be real, but the reasons why so many people were convinced that they were real and how their photographs came to be taken can actually give us some insights into the human condition and how you should actually go about investigating a mystery. Now, the initial photographs and subsequent later pictures were actually taken with some rather basic cameras of the time, but early investigations with glass plates proved that nothing had actually been done to alter the plates after the photographs had been taken. This meant the photographs were accurate representations of what was actually in front of the camera at the time. Instead of camera fakery, what was actually going on was that one of the two sisters was extremely good at drawing and copied some illustrations by Claude Shepperson that were in a book that the children owned. These pictures were then stuck on cardboard, and girls then posed next to the cardboard cutouts at the bottom of the garden. Once the photographs were actually been taken by the other sister. The sisters had told their parents that there were fairies at the bottom of the garden, wanted to take pictures of the fairies to prove that they were real. The whole escapade was a bit of harmless fun. However, the photographic events soon got out of control of the girls, and they soon found themselves at the centre of a major event. Soon newspapers had actually taken up the story, and even the creator of the Sherlock Holmes, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, had been drawn into the question of whether the fairies were real or not. It's from here we can actually start to look at what happened, what broader inferences we can draw from this actual story. First thing to say is right from the start, people underestimated the talent of the sisters, both in their imagination and their skill in drawing, staging, and reproducing the fairy scenes in the photographs. This underestimation of the creative talents of people involved can easily lead people to draw the wrong conclusions from events. Next, we have the actual investigations of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Now, whilst he was an actual brilliant writer who wrote about the world's greatest detective, this didn't actually mean that Conan Doyle himself was a great detective. In fact, he was far from it. The qualities that investigators should bring to a problem should be based upon the specific skills required for the investigation, rather than their reputation in general. So, for example, in another investigation, a leading authority on microbiology would not be the most qualified to give an opinion on, say, statistics. Now, the other thing that Conan Doyle brought to the story was his own emotional baggage. He already had a deep interest in spiritualism, which was reinforced by the loss of his son and many other close relatives in the First World War and events immediately after it. This meant that Conan Doyle, rather than being an impartial, objective investigator, he wanted to believe that the pictures were real. This may have substantially clouded his judgment over the issue. When Conan Doyle became involved, the event now got well out of the sisters' ability to control it. The sisters didn't want to actually embarrass the creator of Sherlock Holmes stories by admitting they invented the story about fairies, so they maintained the lie about them being real. It can also be true with things like ghost stories, Loch Ness monsters, or UFO sightings. What was initially a little bit of fun for a few friends can get out of hand, and the people involved become too closely entangled with the story that it becomes virtually impossible to extract themselves from the situation. So instead, the people involved can attempt to maintain the original story. So along with the underestimation of the talented sisters and the psychology of the people involved, was there any other evidence that should have been apparent that the pictures with the fairies themselves were not all that they actually seemed? Well, later, detailed analysis of the pictures showed that some of the fairies were supported by strings, but without computer enhancement this would have been virtually impossible to detect at the time. However, there was one key element that was overlooked by most people who studied the pictures. And most people who investigated the pictures closely examined both the fairies and the children to see if one or other of them somehow been added later or otherwise faked in. But these people missed the key piece of evidence that was there in the background all the time. There were photographs at the bottom of a large garden, some of which had a small water feature called the Cottingley beck in the background. The images of the beck, or the small stream, cascaded over some rocks. Due to the exposure time that photographs required, the motion of the water over the stones was extremely blurred. However, all the images of the fairies' wings and the other parts of their body were in perfect focus, meaning that the entire time the images were being photographed, that not one of the fairies moved a millimetre. This should have led investigators to conclude that the fairies themselves were not living, but instead some kind of reproduction. By failing to consider all of the information in the photographs, they overlooked that key piece of evidence. So what we can say in conclusion is that when investigating mystery, ideally you should consult experts in specific fields rather than just experts in general. You also need to have an open mind, not bring any bias or preconceived ideas to the mystery. You also need to consider the motivations and talents of those people who are supplying you with the evidence about the actual mystery. And finally, you need to consider all of the evidence, not just the parts that support one position or another position, if you're going to reach a balanced conclusion to the mystery.